Hello and welcome to our roundup of the European Parliament's latest plenary session here in Strasbourg. This week, Greece presented plans for its rotating EU presidency. There were resolutions on migration and on Malta's controversial citizenship program, and there was debate on whether to scrap an EU-US data protection agreement. We begin with Greece, which this month assumed the helm of the rotating EU presidency. For the first half of this year, Greece leads the European Union at a time of fragile and gradual economic recovery. How to generate more jobs, especially among youth, is the top priority. A so-called Compact for Growth and Jobs is aimed at pushing through reforms and boosting investment programs, including through the European Investment Bank, to strike a better balance between boosting the economy and getting budgets under control. Prime Minister Antonis Samaras, a member of the EPP family, told the Parliament,
We have to find balance between stability and sustainable growth. Long-term growth does not exclude budgetary discipline. The first is prerequisite of the second, and long-term competitiveness does not exclude social justice. The former cannot exist without the latter. Remember the example of my country. Greece suffered and still suffers. But we're now standing on our feet. We are proud. We are holding our ground. We are returning to normality. And by doing so, we prove to everyone that Europe works, that Europe can make it. By defending our destiny as a nation, we also defended the future of Europe in every step of the way.
EPP Group President Joseph Daul says Greece's leading priorities for its presidency can speed the recovery.
Monsieur le Premier ministre, j'admire votre détermination.
Mr. Prime Minister, I admire your determination. You hold the line while keeping up hopes. The figures show you're on the right track. Your country is in a primary budgetary equilibrium. Bravo. But that is not enough. Now there must be a second point that must be pursued. When I was last time in Greece, and it counts for all of Europe, regarding youth, regarding business, it is our duty to show that we are also capable in that regard.
Also on Greece's to-do list, further integration of the EU Eurozone. As a first step, the Greek presidency will strive for concrete progress on banking union, including the single resolution mechanism. An EU-wide approach to tackling bank failures is an important step to preventing another financial crisis. On the front line of refugee flows into the EU, Greece also wants to tackle migration, borders, and mobility. It wants a comprehensive EU-wide system to manage migration flows. Linked to that, it also wants to boost EU maritime security. More on migration. The end of restrictions this year on Romanians and Bulgarians has stirred fears in some EU countries of a wave of migration from east to west. To counter what some call populist fear-mongering, the European Parliament has approved a resolution on freedom of movement across the EU. The EPP's motion for a resolution calls on all member states to respect free movement as one of the EU treaty's fundamental rights. It says the European Commission and the EU 28 should ensure that all EU workers are treated equally to protect against discrimination. It reminds member states of their responsibility to tackle misuse of their social welfare systems, whether by their or other EU citizens. Some EU member states have taken or are considering taking action to restrict benefits for migrants. Marian-Jean is an EPP Group Vice President from Romania.
The social benefit is depending on the national law. So, in my opinion, there are very populistic approaches, not based on the real figures, real situation.
The parliamentary action came as the European Commission published guidelines on migration aimed at diffusing the debate. EU Employment Commissioner Laszlo Andor says debate in some member states is emotional and misguided. Mr. Marinescu agrees.
All the politicians should present the real situation and not to change the real statistics, to present the real situation regarding the economy, regarding the contribution of EU citizens in other countries.
Supporting that, a new study by a Swedish economist finds that Bulgarian and Romanian migrants bring 30% more to the Swedish state in tax revenue than they cost. Next, the controversy over Malta granting citizenship to wealthy individuals. The socialist government there wants to raise €1 billion by giving EU passports to those who invest and pay more than €1 million each. That sparked outrage here in the European Parliament. It's Malta's controversial way to raise money. The so-called individual investor program requires an applicant to pay €650,000 to the National Development and Social Fund and buy €350,000 in property, €150,000 in government stocks. Family members an additional €25,000 each. The National Fund is for research, education, job creation, and other programs. Never mind what the money goes for, say MEPs, it still comes down to citizenship for sale, and they've passed a resolution against it. Roberta Mensola is an EPP Group MEP from Malta.
Well, the resolution is very strong. It sends an extremely strong message to the Maltese government that there is something wrong with the scheme it has proposed. The Parliament has spoken, and even though citizenship falls within the exclusive competence of member states, the impact of such a scheme on the EU is huge, and therefore the Maltese government had better pay heed to what the European Parliament has told it.
The resolution says Malta's program undermines the very concept of European citizenship. It calls on the European Commission to clearly state whether the scheme respects EU treaties or not. It also says the rights from EU citizenship are based on human dignity and should not be bought or sold at any price. It calls on Malta to bring its citizenship scheme in line with the spirit of the EU's values. Finally, data protection. The PRISM spying scandal that embroiled U.S. intelligence agencies has sparked calls to scrap the so-called safe harbor agreement that allows the exchange of data between Europe and the United States. The EPP Group is cautioning against scrapping all such agreements, saying that Europe's security is at stake. Uncovering the U.S. mass surveillance PRISM program caused widespread anger in the European Union and debate over all cross-Atlantic data exchange. First in the line of fire, the Safe Harbor Agreement, allowing U.S. companies to process personal data of European citizens.
We are discussing currently in the European Parliament about new European data protection standards, really strong standards to protect our citizens. And if we want to give these new criteria, this new regulation really strong power, then we must stop the Safe Harbor Agreement.
But Weber says that in order to fight terrorism, we need to maintain agreements on passenger name records, or PNR, and on the SWIFT banking data system.
We must, on the other hand, look on our specific interests inside of the European Union. One of the interests is to fight against terror. This is on the table. This is perhaps not so strongly in the mind because we had no terror attacks during the last month and so on, but it is an issue on the table. And the partnership with the Americans and the question of fight against terror with the SWIFT agreement, with the PNR agreement, is helpful for Europe, is protecting Europeans.
The next step, renegotiate the Safe Harbor Agreement to ensure Europeans' privacy, but also to facilitate trade between the world's two largest economies. That's all for now from Strasbourg. See you next week in Brussels. And find out more about the activities of the largest political force in Parliament by checking eppgroup.eu. Thanks for watching.